Hello, and welcome to a tutorial using Cosmic as a headless CMS and Nuxt.js as a front-end framework. My name is Tom Dale, creator of letsgoheadless.com. Now let's get started with that tutorial, and let's go headless. All right, so let's go ahead and get started by initiating a Nuxt app. Do npm init Nuxt app, and then the name of your project, Cosmic to Nuxt. So it's going to have a list of things you're going to want to fill out here. That's part of the generator for the Nuxt app. I choose JavaScript, npm. I'm going to use Tailwind CSS for my UI framework. I'm not going to use any of these modules. I'm going to use Apollo, actually, for my GraphQL. And you should probably use one of these, but I'm not going to use it for the test here. Universal, static Jamstack. And I'm using a VS Code editor, so I'm going to use JSConfig. And just confirm your GitHub information, it'll go. This is for a Nuxt 2 app. Nuxt 3 is out in beta right now, but it's really... I don't know if it's fully ready with some of the things. Like, for example, Apollo isn't set up with Nuxt 3, or Axios isn't. So we're going to need something like that to connect to the API of Cosmic. So while we do that, let's go ahead and open our VS Code editor as well. Here we go. Okay. So it's the basic welcome message here. So what we're seeing is if you go to the pages section in the index.view, you just have a tutorial, and the tutorial component is showing all of that, right? So if I go to components, tutorial, here we go. Welcome to your Nuxt application, so on, so on. It's right here. So let's just go ahead and leave the tutorial section in the index.view, but we're actually just going to replace everything in here, right? So I'll just empty it all and do a template. And I just want to do some basic scaffolding before we do anything Cosmic related, just to make sure it's all working, right? So let me get some basic code here. Here we go. So remember, I am using Tailwind CSS, right? So each of these items you see in the div class, these are just nicknames for different CSS rules. And I'm just putting in, hello, this is my demo, putting in a basic image example right here, and then a title and a post, and that'll be my post, right? So we can check back over here. Here we go. Basic section up here. Each post will line up and go along here. So everything's working there. So let's now look at the Cosmic end of things. So if you don't have an account and you've never used it before, you can just sign up for free. And then once you have created a bucket, this is going to be like the home page, right? So you can just make an object type, and you have an option of making a multiple or a single. The multiple is like if you have a bunch of different posts, then every time you have a new post, it's just going to repeat, right? So I'm going to go with that. We're just going to do a bunch of simple posts. And I already made it up here, but I just want to show you how simple it would be. You just type a name here. It's going to have a content field, a slug. So then you can just add the additional sections you need, right? Like an image field, a text field for the title, something like that, right? So once you do have that created, and I can show you mine, I just named it post. Posts, got the content field. Here's the image field. Real simple. So once you have that done, you can go in then and just add a post and just, whatever name, some content, and just choose an image, right? Did that not work? There we go. So yeah, so it's very, very simple, right? I'm not going to save this one because, again, I already have some posts all over here. So now that we have them all there, we want to connect them to Nuxt, right? And what we're going to do is we can do that through GraphQL, and I'm actually going to use something called Apollo. So let's go ahead and install that. npm install save dev Nuxt.js Apollo. And we're going to have to add that to the Nuxt config here. So you can go down to the modules section and add that there. So Nuxt.js Apollo. And then below that, we're going to configure Apollo. So, and it'll be client configs default, then the HTTP endpoint. And this is the same endpoint for all Cosmic accounts. So graphql.cosmicjs.com/v3. And I just need a comma here. There we go. And that's so it's going to connect to that GraphQL endpoint. Now, to think about how we would then use the GraphQL from Cosmic, they actually have a nice little tool here in the developer tools. And you can see a bunch of different ways. So the GraphQL API right here, you can actually open in a playground and it'll be easy to see. And it's it's just saying get objects from my bucket, gives a read key, so you don't need like a .env file to hide this. It's just a read key. And we're looking at posts. We're going to want title, content. I'm going to want an ID, a slug, and the metadata is that thing we added for the image, right? So now if we press play, you'll see it's going to query all these items. So title, content, notice it's in HTML, so we're going to have to fix that in Nuxt, which shouldn't be a problem. An ID and a slug. And then the metadata, you can see we have some URLs here, right? We have an imgix URL, and that's going to make it really easy to optimize our images because every image with Cosmic does come with an imgix URL, so that's really nice. So if we're going to look back to here, we can now go to our index.view page again and just make some slight adjustments. Actually, sorry, let's make a folder first for Apollo to do our queries. So I'm going to create a new folder called Apollo. And then in that folder, make one called queries. And inside there, you can name a file. Let's call it posts.gql. All right, so that's the graph query symbol here. And that thing we found in the playground, we can just simply copy all of it. Just put it right in here. Makes it real simple, right? So now to access this, we can go to our index.view page, and we're going to have to import it. So let's import, and we're going to import get objects right here. So import get objects from ... Dot is just going backwards, right? Because we're in the pages folder, so it goes back to the home, looks for the Apollo folder, the queries folder, and whatever we called it, all posts, the GQL, right? And you'll notice it's not highlighted. It's kind of like grayed out. It's because it's not being used yet, right? So in the export default, just go Apollo, get objects again. And we're going to tell it to prefetch query objects. There you go. So that should get access to that query. And really, we then just need to, we can even just make it simple and like bind it in the tutorial, right? So we could do like a vbind, and we want to vbind data. Because again, going back to this, data is the top, right? and then get objects, because everything is under get objects and everything is under objects as well. So then we have title, content, and then metadata goes a little deeper, right? So if we can at least bind to these three, then that'll make it a little easier for us to call it. So I'm going to do this data get objects dot objects. Just hitting this home, right? Data get objects objects. That's why I'm putting them there. Okay, so let's go back to the tutorial section here, and now I'm going to look at replacing some of the items here. So remember at the top, this hello world, this is my demo. That's not really part of the blog post and not coming from Cosmic necessarily. I need to maybe run this again. So remember, this part right here is probably always going to be here. You could create something in Cosmic. You could create that singleton and have that fill out this if you want. But I'm just leaving this here, and I'm going to focus on having Cosmic fill out these individual posts. So I'll just leave this alone and this alone. Down here, now we're looking at, this is the stuff we're going to want to go through, right? So, and this image is right here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing my, I have to do a V4. And the V4 is essentially going to look up the API and see how many results there are of something in it, like a title, and then just make a different, all of this section, it'll repeat for every instance of a post. So I could do a V4 post in data. And then I need a key. This is what it's upset about, right? If this red error requires V4 key. So key, and the keys, we can do it based off of like the ID or the slug or something. It's just some kind of a number that differentiates them all for sure. So there you go. That's like how it'll know that something is different ID. So now we should just be able to replace each of these sections, right? So if I just take the title, for example, I could get rid of this, do the double brackets, and then post.title. Okay, let's just see if it works. GraphQL failed. Okay, something failed here. It's saying something's wrong with the address I put, maybe? Let me just double check that's the right address. That's what happens when you don't copy and paste all the time, right? Just try doing this whole section again one more time. I'm not sure if anything was different. Let's find out. I couldn't tell you what was wrong, but we'll just look back at what I pasted, and here it is. Apollo, client configs, default, HTTP endpoint, GraphQL.CosmicJS v3. So something isn't showing up here now, right? So let's see. That's what I was changing in the tutorial view. So I did the post.title. Let's just get rid of this again and make sure that's what was wrong. if something I'm doing wrong. Okay, so that was there now. What did I V4? Should be here. Let's just try everything one more time. Post title. Just fill it all out and see what happens here. And for the image, just curious to see here. For the image, you can do a colon source, and then we should be post dot metadata dot hero image. Any console errors? Okay. The method data is not defined. Oh my goodness. The very bottom here. Perfect. Let's get rid of this. Props. Data. It's going to be silly. Hey. So I needed to put that in the props here to have it pass. So just to confirm what I was doing here, right? If I get rid of this again, hi there. You can see for every instance of a post, I have 7 posts. I have the title coming in and a different image coming in. And like if I change a section, like this paragraph section here, I can, that will just call it, right? Oops. Content. There you go. And it's actually, remember, it's showing HTML, right? So we can actually do a v HTML post.content. Yeah. Real simple. So now the next thing we can, and maybe I should just talk about what I did over here for this source, right? Because these were simple, post.title, but this one was kind of complex, right? So I was actually going deeper in here, right? So remember, all 3 of these are nicknamed to post. Post.title brings this, post.content brings this, post.metadata just brings me another section called hero image. So I need to do post.metadata dot hero image, which then brings more results, dot imgix URL. So that was the best way I could get all the way down to get this URL. And that's why you have this one so longer here, right? So now the images that you are passing, I am resizing them as CSS, right? But realistically, they're still bigger images. We have a 1280 by 854. So I haven't done any like actual sizing, right? You can see this is a much bigger image versus if I wanted to make it width equals 400, you would just add this at the end, right? So if you wanted to just quickly add something like that, you could go over here and just do a plus sign. And then in those single quotes, question mark, width equals 400. So now we can go back over here, refresh it. I know they all look the same, but again, now I'm opening it over here. See, it's the smaller one, right? There you go. So now it's closer to being sized correctly versus having that much larger version. And the reason you just got to be careful to do that is because otherwise the images will be pretty heavy. So right now, the images are 236 kilobytes. If I went back and got rid of this again, now images are 1.2 megabytes. So that's, man, oh man, what is that, 6 times? So it's a big difference, right? So I'm just saying, don't just pass the source. You need to pass some kind of optimized version. Now, really you should do like a source set to do responsive design. And to build that out manually would take a little work. But luckily, Nuxt actually has a Nuxt Image component, which will work with this really easily. So let's go ahead and actually install Nuxt Image. So let's see here. Go back over here, npm install Nuxt Image. And we can go into our Nuxt config again. And we're going to add it to the build modules. Here we go. At Nuxt/image. And then we need to actually this the same way we defined Apollo, we're going to have to define this too. So image. And then we can actually look it up real quick. Nuxt image. Yeah. So there's actually a lot of different providers attached to it. So one of them is imgix. So the way to just set it up would be imgix base URL. And then Cosmic is actually passing the whole URL in the API request. So we don't need anything here. So imgix base URL, and then just leave that blank. And here's my comma. There we go. And then should I just run this again? So now we can think about how would we actually change the image here. So instead of img, it's actually going to be Nuxt-img. Next, we would want to also add like some sizes. And the sizes are what tells it, because it's generating now a source set with a bunch of different versions, but the sizes are going to kind of determine what versions we should do. So just to show an example of that, let me make this maybe more readable here. Source. Here we go. All right. Oh, and we do need to declare the provider. So it's imgix. Okay. Sizes. So at the extra large size, I want a 413 pixel image. Large, half the width of the browser. Medium, another set image. And small, much bigger one because I want like a higher. This is purely for mobile, so I want like a higher pixel breakdown. And I'll show you why I'm choosing that breakdown in a second. Let me just choose one more thing we can put in here. So I'm fine with the images being cropped as we do a responsive design. And I even want to pass some additional modifiers because imgix has a lot of good stuff that could be helpful here. So auto compress, that would be one. I said I wanted to do cropping, right? Well, let's do like intelligent cropping to the faces, and then if there's no faces, go to like a prominent object. And the aspect ratio of most of these images are around 2.32 to 1 or so. So I'll just choose one just in case we have one that's like really tall. It'll at least crop it and save us on the size of the image there. There we go. So we've done all this. Now let's go back over to here. There we go. So what do we have going on now? Let's go ahead and do an inspect here. So we have a source, and we have a source set being generated, and you see a bunch of different sizes, right? The 413, 512, and the 900, all these different sizes. Well, the reason is because as I go, I don't know if I love the cropping on this one. We can adjust that one. But as I go, you can see it becomes kind of bigger versus over here, it's a little smaller, right? So that's just helping declare the size as you go. And now we can, again, check to see the sizes of the images. Let's see here. Man, here we go. Doing really good, 296. Perfect. Great. Well, I mean, I think we're pretty close to there. I think the next thing we could do is think about how we would like deploy this site. So I'm going to use Vercel and put it up to GitHub. So to actually, and a lot of people don't realize you could do that with Nuxt, is put on Vercel, but it's pretty easy. So I'm just going to make a vercel.json file here, and then I make this little builds, say, hey, look at my Nuxt config, and use your Vercel builder. That's that. So we should be able to now, I could go to my GitHub here and create a new, here we go, a local repository. This was the one we just made. Let's add it. Publish it. Don't make it private. Publish. And initial commit. So now I can go to my Vercel, and I'm connected to my GitHub, right? So I should be able to just go here, find my Cosmic to Nuxt, import. I don't have any env or anything weird, and I'm using this special builder. So here we go. And it's going to take a little moment to queue and build it out, but that's it. You've got everything from beginning to end, and it was that easy. So I hope that was really useful for you all, and I hope it gives you the confidence that you can easily just build out some posts, get them connected to Cosmic, and start building a headless site and go from there. Thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you all and hearing from your comments.